I would say a lot of us here in the US have been in a bit of a heat wave right now. It has been brutally hot, you know, and it's summer, you kind of expect that, but this started off kind of in the middle end of June, which is a little bit early for the type of heat we were getting, you know, a 90-degree and then upwards of 100+ degrees heat index, very humid, super hot, just not really all that fun, kind of miserable actually. And this is kind of a weird time for fragrance lovers because we're used to throwing on something, wearing it every day. But there are times when it's that hot that it almost just doesn't really appeal to you that much, depending on what you have at hand as far as your selection within your collection, right? Do you have anything that can hold up to that type of heat? Winter is a bit of a different story. It can be brutally cold and you could wear any sweet scent and it'll kind of hold up, maybe won't be strong enough sometimes, but at least it won't get overly cloying. You know, cold weather has the opposite effect that heat does in terms of how it affects your fragrance, right? And this type of heat can really make it or break it in terms of turning that scent into a nightmare. But today I wanted to go over just a small selection, 7 or 8 great fragrances that really can beat the summer heat, beat this heat wave that we have going on right now. What I was looking for here was simply some fragrances that just have a real nice bright freshness about them that kind of has this refreshing and cooling underlying aspect as well. Kind of going for something a bit watery, citrusy, fresh, that sort of thing. We've got a nice selection here to just dive right into. This first one is Lacost Ofresh. So this is it's L1212 Ofresh, but you know, just Lacoste Ofresh. This one has grapefruit, ginger, and apple, among some other citrus notes and some other kind of basics, so to speak. I mean, when you look at the note breakdown, there's nothing that stands out really. It's something that you've seen a million times pretty much. And when it comes to summer scents, that's kind of usually how it is. However, this one to me, it does kind of separate itself from a lot of other scents out there. It is something that I can distinguish. And what I mean by that is when I smell this, you know, it's different enough to where it does stand out and it doesn't kind of just blend in with everything else that I have and that I've smelled before. You know, there's something to be said about the type of grapefruit that they're using in here, mixing with the other citrus that's involved. And I don't know, it just has this kind of slightly sour, bright, punchy, almost kind of mouth-watering sour accord as well. There's a lot going on with this one, and it might not seem that way on paper. And to be fair, a lot of that's going to be coming from that ginger accord as well, just giving it just a bit of a bright kind of pop, you know, a little bit of a cool texture to go along with that citrus and all of the musk and stuff that you get in this one as well. You know, and the bottle is also a testament to how this one presents itself. You kind of have this light greenish color, and then of course that white cap, and then kind of a cool little feature about the back of the bottle has a texture to it and the front does not. It's interesting, but anyway, it kind of gives you an idea of what you're in for. And you can see I've put a decent sized dent in this one for what it's worth. I've had it for a couple of years, but this is one where, especially with how hot it's been, I've kind of rediscovered, so to speak. I kind of was looking through everything, trying to just find something else to wear instead of wearing the same couple things over and over again. And this is one that I landed on and was like, you know what? This is holding up great for this type of high heat. And it's an affordable one too, at around like $40 to $45. This next one was a no-brainer for me. It was one that definitely had to be in the video, but also it was one that was kind of one of my first thoughts when we started getting this heat and I was trying to change things up a little bit. It's Tommy Bahama, Set Sail, St. Kitts. And you know what I love so much about this stuff is it's cheap. It's $20 to $25 on discounters, 100 ml. Now, granted, it's an eau de cologne, so weak in terms of concentration. And it does live up to that as well, okay? It is not a very strong scent. That's the main problem with basically all Tommy Bahama scents, you know, Set Sail, St. Bart's, the same way. You know, if only they could come out with flankers of these that are, you know, eau de parfums or something. Probably never in a million years going to happen, but I would love to see it. That would make life a lot better. But I'll tell you though, these smell good enough to where it's worth spraying on heavily, hitting yourself with a few extra sprays, and maybe even doing a reapplication sometime in the middle of the day if it came to that. And of course, that's going to be up to everybody's interpretation, or it's going to be up to everybody as far as if they feel the scent is worth it enough to do that. For me, it is. So it's got watery notes, orange, starfruit, driftwood, another light, bright, fresh tropical scent. Kind of smells a little bit similar to Choo Man Ofresh, which is in a similar category and has a similar type of bright freshness. Really, the two can be interchanged. So I put this one in here. I didn't put Choo Man Ofresh. That's kind of how similar they are. It would be a bit redundant to have both in a video like this. This is also about half the price, so it's a really nice, affordable option that you can apply heavily and just get the job done with. I'm going to go for another affordable alternative. You could say this is a clone, and you could say that the Tommy Bahama St. Kitts is maybe a clone as well, but this one definitely is. It's Choo Man Ice. It's a clone of Dior Homme cologne. Okay, so this one especially makes sense because you're talking about a $20 price difference with the Tommy Bahama and the Versace. This one you're talking more like a $60 price difference, maybe $70 price difference, because again, the Dior Homme cologne is going to be well over, not well over, but over $100, and I think you're looking at around 30-ish for this one, maybe 40, not 100% sure, somewhere around in that range. But it does smell very close. Actually, believe it or not, it actually has a bit more depth behind it. Dior Homme cologne consists of 3 notes, basically a musk, a citrus, and a bergamot basically is kind of what you get out of that one. This one, you're getting similar notes with the citron and stuff, kind of that bright freshness, but then quite a bit of woods later on. They even list off like vetiver and patchouli and stuff along with ambrox and things like that. Musk as well in this, but I find it to actually be just a little bit more sweet, although this is still far from a sweet scent. So this very much holds up and works very well in this high heat, as of course does Dior Homme cologne. That just is at more of a premium. And given that, the Dior doesn't really perform all that good, not everybody's going to want to justify that price. But I think for the money, Choo Man Ice is a wonderful scent for the heat wave, and it kind of has that refreshing, cooling smell that I was talking about in the beginning of the video. I've seen people kind of bring this up online, and it's something I've tried. You could throw this bottle in the freezer. It kind of just has this cooling type of feeling to it when that cold liquid finally hits your skin. That's something you can do with this as well. Gonna go for another cheap one. I didn't really work this out that way as far as like choosing things that are more affordable, but it actually just kind of fell together, which isn't really a bad thing. It's Pepe Jeans Cocktail. It's got grapefruit, yuzu, and ginger. I love the bottle too. That blue to green gradient is really cool. And it's so much better than you would expect. This is not the most popularized and well-respected, brand in terms of designer fragrances, right? You just don't really, it's not a Dior or Chanel or YSL or anything. It's Pepe Jeans, right? And even maybe the bottle does look a little bit kind of funny. I don't know. I just think, looking at the name, looking at the picture, people might glance over this one, or at least would be quick to do so. But really, give it a try. It might impress you with how good it is. And again, we're talking about price point here, affordability. It's like $20 to $30, okay? And it is great, bright, fresh, uplifting, just a little bit tart as well. It's just something that's kind of an eye-opener. It wakes you up, gives you a little hit of energy. There's virtually no sweetness at all to this one. So again, it just works really well for the scorching summer heat. Okay, this next one has a little bit of a sweetness to it, okay? And it still works, okay? Now, everybody's gonna have a preference on how far they wanna take it. But I've been wearing it. I've also been wearing, it's a discontinued one, but Bulgari Aqua Atlantique a lot in this heat as well. which kind of has a blue fragrance sweetness, and it's been perfectly fine for me, but it's obviously not included because you can't buy it anymore. But this one is Rasi Howis, okay? And it's got that sweet plum, you know, that sweet fruity plum, but it has the watery notes, it has the apple, the bergamot, the ambroxan, basically everything else that you would come to expect out of something like this, a summer scent. That's trendy and a compliment getter, but just with a bit of that plum, pushing it into a semi-sweet direction. It's been so popular, and I mean, it's been out for a long time, like 2015, but here, especially over the past year, 2 years, it's really been taking off again, kind of having another wave. And maybe part of that is to do with the flankers. You know, we had no other Rasi Howis up until a couple of years ago, and then they came out with, I guess it would have been Ice, and then we've had several more since then, Fire and Tropical and Black and all of them, right? So I think the flankers that are just now starting to roll out of nowhere are kind of bringing the spotlight back on this one. But really, the other thing is price point has come down a lot. There was a point where, one, you couldn't get it at a discounted price. People were overpaying like $60, $70 for this stuff, which was just crazy. And then, you know, also that was basically it. You either couldn't get it or you're overpaying. Now you can get it for as low as $19, $20. I mean, big price adjustment on this, and it's perfect for the high heat. Great performance as well. It's one of the strongest fragrances in this video. We can go for Ferragamo Bright Leather up next. This one's got musk, orange, bergamot, and white leather. So, you know, typically a leather scent might not be your first choice or your first thought when it comes to selecting a high heat, you know, summer scent. But this, again, it's a very light, you know, borderline, just almost non-existent leather, to be fair with you. It's very, very minuscule. And in fact, what I get the most out of this is something that's not even listed off, and that is violet leaf. I get a very strong violet leaf accord, which kind of gives it this blue, watery type of smell. And that's what I pick up on a lot. Of course, with the citrus listed off and the musk as well, but that's kind of how this one comes across for me. Smells really, really good. And what I like about it too is that it is kind of different. It doesn't smell like your usual typical summer fragrance that a lot of people might be wearing. It kind of is against the grain a little bit. Works great for this time of year, really hot weather. Just it gets the job done. And again, price point on this one is around $40 to $45, I believe. Just again, very reasonable here. And we're going to finish this video off with a clone. It's Latafa Maher Legacy. It's a clone of Parfums de Marly Sedley, which I love. It's one of my favorite fresh Parfums de Marly's, but of course we know it's expensive and not always for a good price on discounters. Sometimes you're paying, you know, $300 for it on discounters unless they're running a sale. This is going to be about, again, 40 or so. Sometimes I think I've even seen it for 35, 37, 40. It's got that mint. It has the bergamot, the ambroxan, all of the musk. It's Sedley. Basically, you go look at the note breakdown of PDM Sedley. That's what you're getting out of this one. And I'm sure the note breakdown on this one is going to be very close with a few differences just for fun, you know, that they'll throw in there. But yeah, it's really about as close as you can get, to the point that I might have a hard time telling them apart. You know, I could say right now that, oh, I can easily tell them apart, but man, I think if I was blindfolded and it was a blindfolded test, I don't know. I think I might have trouble with that one. It's that close. I don't say that about everything. There are definitely some things out there that would be easy to tell apart. This one is just about spot on. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. Some fantastic fragrances that'll tackle any heat wave that you throw at them. I'll link everything down below. That way you can get them at the $40-ish price range that I've been talking about pretty much throughout the entirety of the video here. If you want to be notified of rare, discontinued fragrances coming into stock and exclusive sales, you can sign up to my free mailing list at the first link down below. You just don't want to miss out. Anything from, you know, rare stuff like Aqua de Jo Absolute, 212 Party Fever, things like, you know, Amouage Reflection 45 coming in for $200, Prada L'Homme Intense for $68, $70. Just great deals and rare finds where you can really save a lot of money and also pick up some really cool limited edition collector's items as well that would just kind of go under the radar if you weren't subscribed and getting those notifications. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay cool, and we'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.